Hello and welcome to Make Some Noise. This is episode number 26, and we got a very special guest today, guitarist Anthony Fox from the band Generation Landslide. Now, let me ask you, Anthony, right off the back, I got to ask about the band's name. Was that at all inspired by the Alice Cooper song?
It absolutely was. That's where it came from.
That's what I assume. And, it kind of fits the type of music you guys do. I'd say if anybody was like into classic kind of 70s rock or even 80s, early 80s, like Hollywood rock, that they're going to love what you guys are doing.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And before we get into the new album, people probably know you, of course. You were previously with Cold Sweat. Now that the band reunited a couple of years ago and they've done some shows. Are you back with the band when they play out?
With Cold Sweat? Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm the original drummer and I'm still the drummer.
Yeah, wow. So you are a multifaceted, guy. Of course, you're the front man in Generation Landslide. You play guitar now. Before all that, I know early on you also played in the Kiss tribute band Cold Gin, of course, with Tommy Thayer and Jamie St. James, who automatically it's kind of role reversal. Jamie was playing the drums in that, and you were with Paul Stanley then. Is that not correct?
Yep, that is absolutely correct. We had a bass player and a guitar player who didn't change, and then we had a singer and a drummer.
Yeah. And what I love about it, I'm a big fan of tribute bands. People make fun, saying, "Oh, you're playing other people's music," but to me, especially a band like that, it's really rock and roll theater, especially the bands that not only play the music but you dress the part. And I gotta say, Cold Gin came out at a time when tribute bands were kind of fairly new. I mean, of course, there were cover bands where people get and play, other people's music, but tribute bands became a thing, and probably you guys and like the Atomic Punks were one of the first tribute bands out here in LA.
Yeah, I think so. I believe there was always cover bands, but as far as the tribute bands, yeah, you're going way, way back now.
Yeah.
Probably one of the first ones. I think there was a Pink Floyd and a Led Zeppelin one.
It may have been, maybe even Led Zeppelin again. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But when we did it, there was no bar to set. We set the bar at that
That's what
point.
I'm saying. That's why
We had no frame of reference and anything like that. Everything we did was literally trial and error and watching old Kiss videos.
Yeah, and obviously you're a Kiss fan, so and you're a performer. You've been doing this for years, and we're going to get into some of that. But doing the Kiss tribute thing as Cold Gin, doing your version of Paul Stanley. I mean, that had to be a little different because not only are you up on stage, you're playing Kiss music that you grew up on, but you're going the extra mile. You get a little more made up than usual. That had to be kind of different and fun at the same time.
Yeah, it was actually both at the same time. I remember us sitting there talking about it. And when it came right down to it, I kind of looked at everybody and said, you're going to have to give me 2 weeks. I'll go home. If I can pull this thing off, if I can look the part, I can sound the part, I can sing the part, I can do everything I got to do, because I was switching from drums to guitar and singing. And I said, just give me 2 weeks and we'll see what happens. If everybody likes it, we'll continue. And we did. And everybody likes it.
And let me ask you, like, how long did it take before you guys did your first show, let's say, to master the art of putting on the makeup?
It didn't take us very long. A little bit of time, maybe so many weeks after we had done the rehearsals. And then we did the makeup, trial and error. We did it more. We just kept going. And originally we were in Kiss t-shirts.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of started getting more and more of a crowd. And we thought, well, if we're going to do this, we need to do this the right way. So that became the outfits, the boots, the firehouse hat, the everything you can think of, doing all the things he did, and just kept going.
And this could be a funny question, but did it take longer to put the makeup on or to take it off?
Put it on.
Yeah, I figured.
To take it off, I mean, there were times that we played shows and we just ran backstage and just literally just scrubbed it off and was done in 5-10 minutes. But Putting it on was definitely a long time. Eventually, we all got better at it, and it
For
became
sure, for
quicker,
sure.
but took a
And,
while.
and and how cool was it to get the actual Kiss guys, thumbs up and they were actually, endorse the band? That'd be pretty cool.
It was very cool, actually. At the they had seen us a few times. The first time, we didn't want to know that they were there.
Yeah, yeah,
Nervous, but then we found out they were there, and they wanted to come back behind there to see us. And ironically enough, I have a picture of me where Paul Stanley's putting on the lipstick.
yeah, yeah.
Somebody shot it, took a picture, and it's been out there for 30 something years, and it's one
Wow.
of the coolest pictures I've ever,
Yeah, and at a time like that, a band like Cold Gin was cool because, like we said, it was kind of at the start of the tribute band thing, and people we kind of forget, all these years later that because Kiss really until '96 didn't really put the makeup back on, and so I mean there was a time in my life when you hear all these stories, oh Kiss is going to get back with the original line. Oh, no, they're not, and then it finally happened.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it was very cool. I obviously grew up on Kiss. They were a big thing for me, and when I was able to do it and play in front of them and get to know them a bit more, and we just did it for fun.
sure,
Originally, that was
sure,
all it was supposed to
sure.
be. Just wanted to do something different that nobody else was doing, and it
And of
just
course, of course, Tommy
um,
Thayer could have had no idea at the time that this was really the precursor to what he'd go on to do next.
yeah, it's funny that you see Tommy, in the last, wow, he's been with them, what, 15, 20,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know, years and stuff. And everybody goes, oh, wow, cool. And I sit and go, well, no offense to him or nothing, but he should know how to do it
yeah,
because
yeah,
he did it,
yeah.
years before that. So he knew how to put the makeup on. He knew all the songs. So he was perfect
And I
for
would say the biggest difference is, clubs versus arenas and stadiums. Yeah,
right.
yeah,
So
yeah,
we all knew that if something like that was going to happen, he would be the one because he was meant for that. He really was. He was great.
yeah. And so, obviously, with what you're doing now with Generation Landslide, it's kind of a great precursor because obviously it makes sense that you would kind of be, influenced by a guy like Paul Stanley that he can write songs, he can sing, he can front the band, he can play guitar. Paul Stanley, I put him right up there with like Malcolm Young and James Hetfield as far as being one of the greatest all-time rhythm guitar players.
Absolutely. He will always have an influence on me.
Yeah,
Um, since I was a teenager, it was always Paul Stanley, Paul Stanley. And it's not my liking for him is different than other people and stuff. My liking is because I can relate to him. I like the way he moves. I like the way he sings. I like the way he looks. His playing. He makes everything look natural.
yeah,
You
yeah.
belong like it's a big part of him. That's his
Sure.
life. I love all that stuff about him.
And now, an interesting thing we learned about you today, Anthony, that I didn't know previously. You start out as a drummer, and that's kind of interesting because a lot of guys they start out playing different instruments. Even the great late Eddie Van Halen started out on the drums, and him and Alex made the famous switch. So, talk about why did you initially pick the drums as your instrument of choice?
That's a good question. I really don't know. It started a long time ago when we were all in high school. And it just for some reason, there was a band that we used to go to high school with, and they were a year or so older, and they
Okay.
didn't have a place to rehearse. And
Okay.
I always remembered I asked my mom if they could rehearse at our house, and she said yes. So there used to be equipment all in in this big room, and I just remember one day seeing these drums going. You know what? I'm going to jump on those things. Let me just see what
Yeah.
it's like, and I jumped on them, and I from that point forward, I just kept going and going and going and never stopped.
And I imagine, being that you can play the guitar, you can sing, you can play the drums, it gives you like I don't know how involved you are with the production. Like when you guys went in and recorded that the new album was coming out, you said July 3rd.
Right.
Um, but I would think it would give you like a better perspective for what the other guys in the band are doing. The fact that I mean, let's think about when you're behind the drum kit, you're typically the back of the stage. You're the front man now. You're fronting the band. You're singing lead. You're writing the songs. It's a very different thing. So you go from being the back of the stage, everybody's looking at you now, the front man.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the price you pay for
Yeah.
switching instruments, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, it gives me a different perspective of things so that I can hear stuff in my head. So I would say, if I wrote something like this, I have an idea of what the guitar would sound like. But now I also have an idea of what the drums would be like because I can hear the groove in my head. I can hear, where I want it to go. And then I just kind of guide, the other guys in the band, and then they just put their spin on it. And that's it, really.
And, yeah. And did you start out always being a singer, or did you start out on other instruments? Obviously, a drummer, but
The funny thing about that is when I was a teenager, I was in a band with Mark Slaughter, and we
oh,
had a band called Excursion.
yeah,
And what
yeah.
Excursion was a three-piece band. Now, anybody remembers three-piece bands back then? There was Rush, there was Triumph, and there
Grand
was
Pocket.
a band
Yeah.
called Raven.
Wow.
We wanted to be a combination of all three bands. So we had two singers. I had no choice. I didn't want to sing. I still don't like to sing.
Wow.
Mark was singing half the songs. I was singing half the songs. And at that time, we were playing half originals and half covers.
Mm-hmm.
So we just kind of split them up between us. And I just kind of kept singing. And then I stopped and said, I don't want to sing no more. And I got into bands that had lead singers and,
Okay.
other people like that. So I just kind of let it go, really, to be honest.
Now, another curious thing I have here is obviously, like I've heard Dave Mustaine talk about this. Like, initially he comes out of Metallica, he's the lead guitar player. Initially, when he formed Megadeth, he was thinking about he wanted to have a lead singer. He didn't want to do the singing, but it got to a point where he was auditioning singers and he couldn't find anybody to sing his songs the way he heard them.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And, I feel the same way. And the same thing, I use this example as well. I feel like Dave Grohl is the same thing. Not that my material is the same as Nirvana or Dave Grohl or anything like that, but I understand where he's coming from. Fact of the matter is, he's got this material. And what do? Do you get a lead singer? Do you add more guys? Or you just kind of go, well, I can hear it in my head. Let me try to do it the best I can and hope to God that people like my voice and people like what I'm doing. And
I think oftentimes, you don't necessarily have to have the greatest sounding voice, especially if you have a guy writing the song. You can maybe sing it more from the heart.
Right. It depends what kind of songs you're going for, what kind of vibe you're looking for. I mean, I'm not a Ronnie James Dio. I'm not Alford. I'm not necessarily a Mick Jagger either. It's just
maybe even I can maybe even more like David Lee Roth. You may laugh when I say that, but because he's not the greatest singer in the world, but I love some of his nonsensical lyrics. I don't even know what the hell he's talking about, but it sounds cool.
And it fits the vibe of the song. It fits the vibe of the band.
Yeah.
It's the right combination. That's how you know. You don't have to be the greatest guitar player, drummer, singer, or bass player. You just have to have the right combination of people and the right songs, and that's it.
So let's talk about the combination as far as your band, Generation Landslide. Who are the other guys in the band?
So the bass player is John Swanson. The second guitar player is Sandy Stein, and the drummer is Ken Kadelka.
And are these guys you all knew, or did you audition them?
So it goes way, way back. So I grew up with Sandy. His band used to open up for Excursion when we were in high school and so on and so forth. And then years later, here we are. The second guy, Ken, he lived with me out in Los Angeles. And when the Kiss tribute was at the end, him and I became friends. So I'm talking 1991, 92, or 93.
Yeah.
And we put together a band together. So I've known him since then. And then John, the bass player, I played in a band with him in Ohio since 2000. So I've known him for another 20 some odd years too. So all three of these guys have history with me way, way back. And this is really the first opportunity that the four of us get to actually do, a original band instead of cover bands or, being a kids band and
Oh,
stuff. So,
sure, sure. And I just kind of want people when they watch this to kind of, know your story, Anthony, because truthfully, like I've heard your name, before. I know you're associated with Cold Sweat and Cold Gin, these other things, but your publicist Jody reached out to me, sent me a press release. I checked out some of you. I said, oh, yeah, I got to interview this guy.
cool.
And I've heard of you, but like I said, one reason we do something like this is kind of allow you to get your story out so people watch and they know a little more about you than they did before. Now you mentioned Mark Slaughter and this band Excursion you guys had.
Right.
Now it's funny that you got all these kind of connections to Kiss, if you know what I mean. I mean these offshoots like of course he would probably following Excursion. I believe he did the record with Vinnie Vincent was one record. But what did you think about that when you heard your buddy Mark was working with ex Kiss guitarist Vinnie Vincent?
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I had moved to California and we had kept in touch. And then right after that, he had gotten the Vinnie Vincent gig. And so we were still talking all the time.
Yeah.
And then, then Slaughter comes out and, I'm in Cold Sweat. He's in Slaughter. So, it kind of, paralleled through all of that. And I thought,
I got to tell you, I'm a huge Mark Slaughter fan. To be honest, I like the Slaughter stuff a lot better, especially Stick It Up to You, early stuff. I even like some of the later albums like Revolution, which was the last one, of course, with Tim Kelly before he was killed. But I bring that all up because I think like when he was in Vinnie Vincent's band, it's obviously Vinnie Vincent's band. Vinnie Vincent was controlling everything, where I don't think Mark had the freedom to do what
right,
he wanted, until Slaughter. And it's interesting that Slaughter, they famously said Slaughter stole his record company, but got the deal. But
yeah, but
but I think it's because you can see in that Slaughter album, especially "Stick It to You," the way people reacted to that. There was talent, being locked up, locked.
yeah, I think a lot of that is not necessarily he was a hired gun, but I kind of think everybody thought of him as that.
Well, I
And
guess what I'm saying is, obviously it's Vinny's band, so Vinny, as great of a singer as Mark was, he wasn't going to let Mark's talent really outshine
right,
his. Is what I'm
right,
trying to say. That's why the Slaughter records, you can really, especially Mark and Dana as a writing team, you can see that there was that chemistry there.
right. He was
Yeah,
definitely going to venture out, you know, eventually. And
yeah,
so he got the experience, got the connections. Then he was able to write the songs he wanted to write,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's history right there. So
Oh, sure, sure. I imagine you've talked to Mark over the years, or you even gone to see him playing concert, and he's probably keeps in touch with you. But if you guys ever thought about officially releasing the stuff you did together, or even saying, hey, why don't we see if we can put some new stuff out?
yeah, yeah, we've been talking about it for a while, and it's not as easy as it seems, but we
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah,
um we've talked about a box set of
yeah,
all the Excursion stuff. There's stuff from Excursion, there's an EP, and then there's a full-length record, but there's a third record that never got released.
yeah.
So that's kind of like sitting there just the same. And we thought about it. It's just hard, everybody's schedules
Oh,
and
sure, sure, sure. I
just
mean,
finding the right time to master some of it, mix some of it. What do we, how do we
yeah,
want?
yeah. I mean, everybody's crazy schedule, especially. I mean, you're here talking about your new album coming out July 3rd, and that's what you're focused on. And makes sense, Anthony. But I imagine too, like, is the Excursion stuff ever officially been released? Because I imagine at some point, especially with the success of Slaughter, back in the day, probably people were selling on eBay and stuff like that,
Right.
and for
There's,
crazy, $800 amounts, stuff like
right. There's bootlegs of it. The original stuff we did were on vinyl.
that. Yeah.
So both of those records were on vinyl. And after that, we didn't do anything else with it. I do know that there's bootleg copies of both of those records out
Wow.
there.
Wow.
So, you know,
And Generation Landslide, let's get back to that because that's what we're supposed to be talking about. But again, I want people to kind of know your history here. Is the band played out live, or will that happen once the new CD comes out?
the band has played. The last show we just did was May 1st for the M3 pre-party thing.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
Yeah, that was the last show we did. It was kind of like an RFK Media mini festival. There were three of us on there. Generation Landslide was on there, the Fifth was on there, and
Uh,
Ron Keel's band was on there. So we did that, and then I just kind of put a stop to it right now because I want to concentrate on the record coming out. Um, but I'm looking for a booking agent because I definitely want the band to play after the record comes out. So yeah,
yeah, because the reason I ask is, I mean, you live in Las Vegas, so I mean, it'd be real easy to just play shows in Vegas, but it'd be cool also to take it on the road so everybody could see it.
yeah, I wish it was that simple.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
in Vegas closed down, so it's a little tougher to play here in Vegas. There's only a couple of places really left, so I would rather find a booking agent and go play everywhere
Oh,
else.
you're kidding me, because there's this misconception that I mean, people the last several years talking about okay, there's Nashville and then there's Vegas, but I guess Nashville's kind of taken over, huh?
Yeah, I know there's a lot more places to play in Nashville. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people here in Vegas, a lot of musicians, but I think they just use it as a hub to go other places because there's not a lot of scene here
Yeah,
for original local bands because there's
that's a shame. At one time there was, but I guess it's kind of like the LA scene kind of died out. Because I mean, even the Sunset Strip's not what it once was. I mean, I grew up, here in LA, but you got the Whiskey still, you got the Roxy, but all the other legendary clubs kind of have shut down, and even the
right,
Viper Room is hanging on by a thread.
right, and I think that's a lot of reason why the whiskey makes bands pay to play
Yeah,
because if there were other places that they could play, they'd stay away from the whiskey. But because whiskey's still
yeah,
open,
yeah,
unfortunately, I'm not gonna
yeah.
bad, but I
No,
just even the
no, it's the way the business is. And you guys recently played the Whiskey not too long ago, right?
yep, we played there a couple of times actually. Yeah,
What's that like? And I ask because I can imagine being up on that stage. You stop and you think that's
I,
where
I
Jim Morrison and Eddie Van Halen got their start.
yeah, and I played there back in the day too. I played there in the '80s. I played there in the '90s. So I mean, I played the whiskey,
Yeah.
times, and it's don't get me wrong, it's a great place. I mean, iconic. It's just
What's amazing is okay, it's like an iconic, legendary club. Um, I mean, you could ask anybody in the United States, "Oh, the Whiskey Go Go, yeah, that's in Hollywood, that's in L.A." They're gonna know what you're talking about. But at the same time, if you've ever been there, it's a little tiny
it.
stage. I remember when they used to have the tribute band show on TV that you could go see it recorded live there, and it was
Sure.
this kind of interesting little thing because the red light would go on, and I mean 30 minutes the concert was over, but it was a unique experience if anybody ever had a chance to go down there.
Yep, it's not as big as everybody thinks it is, but it's still cool. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. And it's funny, like talking about your band Cold Gin. You guys were, like we said, really at the start of it. And can you imagine if you guys had to do that pay to play?
Yeah, the thing is we played the Troubadour, and it was just jam packed every time we played. And I loved the Troubadour, to be honest,
Yeah, yeah.
but I guess they're not open any longer.
No, I mean you can drive by there and the building just kind of sits empty. Nothing's there, but which I
Right,
don't know what point, but the rainbow's still there, and interesting that used to be kind of it still is like a hangout hub, but thing that Lemmy actually had his apartment right above there.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love the
yeah,
rainbow.
yeah. So let me ask you, Anthony. Now the songs on the new album, like I said, you've been plugging away in music for many, many. Are these songs that you had laying around for a long time, or are these like did you ever demo any of these songs, let's say with Cold Sweater and other bands, or was this freshly written material?
They span a few years back, but I never demoed them with any other band. It's always just been
Okay.
mine. And then I went in and started getting everybody to record them. So yeah.
Uh-huh. And as far as the recording of the album, I'm curious. Were you guys in an actual recording studio, like the same room, or just you do it the modern way? Everybody records their parts separately and you piece it together.
Nope, we keep it together. I'm a big believer of that. Not that I haven't, because I've done it with a Cold Sweat song, and I've done it
Uh,
with a band that I played in LA with. But I felt that the vibe in the room is way better. So everybody
oh
gets in,
yeah,
record bass, drums, and whatever else we can, and we just build it from there. But you got to have the vibe of having the band, instead of getting a digital track or a thing
yeah.
sent over.
I don't know. Maybe it's just the way we grew up. But I remember when I was growing up, all my favorite band did it. I mean, it was old school way. That's how it's amazing how much has changed. There was a time you couldn't even do this.
Right. And don't get me wrong, I get it. I
Yeah,
totally understand, and I totally get that people live across the country and it's, not as easy for, people anymore. But I try as much as possible to get everybody into the room.
mhm, yeah. So before you wrap it up, just a few more questions. Now, you mentioned some of your influences, but like guitar wise, who were your guitar heroes growing up? Obviously, Paul Stanley, we know, but who else?
Right. Paul Stanley was one big one for me. The other big ones are Rick Emmett of Triumph,
Wow.
Mark Farner of Grand Funk Railroad, and Dave Menichetti of Y&T. Now, those are very different, crazy ones that people wouldn't expect, but those are the three that always stuck in my mind as long as I can remember.
Well, maybe a lot of those guys have the same. I can see why you'd be influenced, but they're all great frontmen. It's one thing to get up there and just be a flashy lead guitar player. That takes a certain level of um, talent. But I've had guys tell me, to get up there on stage, you're the front man of a band. You're not only do you got to remember your guitar parts, but you got to remember words. You got to communicate with the audience. So that takes a certain type of kind of like Mark Forner. I mean, he's a great guy at that.
I think those three guys for me are all around everything. They rhythm guitar, lead vocal, write
Yeah.
songs. They do it all. That to me is a full blown musician that I wanted to pattern myself after. And the only difference that I throw on there is I throw the vibe, the
Yeah, yeah.
singing and the vibe of Paul Stanley. He's just stuck with me since I was a teenager.
And there's
Can't,
just some of those guys, Paul Stanley, David Lee Roth, even Sammy Hagar, ultimate frontman, if you will. I mean, I even throw
right.
Ted Nugent in there, back, if you were at what he did
Yep.
back in the 70s, great
I love
frontman. See, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Ted Nugent, he's in a league all his own, wild loincloth and all that, cat scratch
yep.
fever. Yeah.
I love once again all around great musician, rhythm, lead,
Yeah.
sings, writes songs. It's all around. Plus a great entertainer. That to me is the whole package.
Yeah, that really is. I mean, I think that's why, like, listening to some of your tunes, like I'll be honest, I've never seen the band live, but I like, and even just talking to you today, I'm like, wow, the songs I listen, I'm like, I'd imagine they put on a great, great live show, and I think they're really pumping the album out. It's not even out yet, but like even just the ads I've seen, I want to go buy the album. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it has a very older style feel with a modern mix, but a lot of the songs are very sing along. They're
Yeah.
they're aggressive, they're arena rock, they're loud, but then they can be light when they need to be. It's all around. The material that I wanted to write was all around type of stuff that has old and new mixed together.
Oh, that's what I mean. I always love like good time music. Like you can never go wrong. Let's be honest. Two kids
Right.
dancing. Never go wrong with rock and roll all night. You know what I mean? It's good time
And
music. Great way to end
right.
the show. Yeah.
You could sit and listen to some of those songs in a car. Picture yourself putting the CD in, top down, windows down, or whatever, and you're driving the car. That's the kind of stuff that you're going to get from Generation Landslide right there.
Yeah, and that's why like Destroyer is one of the all-time greatest albums of all time. Not just Kiss albums, but classic rock albums because you have everything from Detroit Rock City, Beth, Shout It Out Loud, God of
Right.
Thunder, and to find out God of Thunder was actually written by Paul Stanley. I heard a demo.
Right.
Paul doing the
Yeah.
original vocal. Yeah.
Right. And you're right. That album gives you everything, gives you all the different modes, moods, everything you need, plus the high energy, having a good time, rock and roll type of stuff.
Yeah. And so, just to let everybody know, once again, before we wrap this up, Anthony, the new album is called uh, Extinction, right?
Existence, yes.
Existence. It comes out July 3rd on RFK Media. And that's going to be the final question for Dave. How did you, probably knew Ron Keel, but I mean, that's a great label to be on. I mean, how did you hook up with them?
We go way back because, as anybody knows, Mark Ferrari was in Keel. And
There you
then when
go.
Mark left Keel, he started Cold Sweat, which was Ferrari first and then Cold Sweat. So I've known Ron way, way back, then. And now that he has a record company, he's been amazing. He's been wonderful, totally supportive of the band and me. I couldn't ask for a better place to have the record and put the record out and have these great people behind me,
Yeah, they've
actually.
got a great roster of artists. I forget the name of the band, but there was a band featuring Stacy Blades, who used to be in LA Guns, and man, I just love their album. And Stacy, of course, is now playing in Ricky Rocket's band. So good,
Yep.
good for him. Yeah. Um, Anything else you'd like to say today, Anthony, before we wrap it up? It was really great talking to you.
That's it. If you need to know anything about the band, it's generationlandslideband.com. That's the website. Worldwide on all streaming platforms. CD is available. You can pre-order the CD right now. You have 1 week left, and if you pre-order the CD, you get the first single, Running Out of Time, as a stream download for free. So
Wow, that
yeah,
is great. So I'm definitely going to get the new album, Anthony. And once I do, we'll have you back in a few months once the album's been out a while and I've had a chance to hear the entire thing. So good luck
awesome,
with the new album, and have a great weekend, my friend.
awesome. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. It's really nice talking to you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye
Okay,
bye.
take care.